Hey everybody, welcome to the Chaos Gym, and with me today I have the trainer Chip, who got top 8 over at Athens Regionals with Mega Rayquaza Jolteon.
What's up, Rahul?
For those of you guys who don't know, Chip has his own YouTube channel, which I will link down below. He's a really good friend of mine, and I'm really glad he did well this weekend.
Yeah, man, appreciate it.
Okay, so Chip, I will let you talk about the tournament experience going into the event. What led you to play Rayquaza?
Yeah, so going into the event, like the whole week leading up to it, I hadn't really even tested Rayquaza at all. I was testing Turbo Dark, and I was testing Greninja and Gyarados, and like those decks that were getting a lot of hype going up into the event. And like I didn't even have Rayquaza sleeved up until I didn't even have the deck built until 12:30 the night before the tournament, and I was just like, you know what, I don't like any of these decks. I'm just gonna throw Rayquaza together because it's something I'm comfortable with. I've played it before, and so I just decided to go with that. Just build something consistent. Going into a big tournament like that, you're gonna play against a little of everything. So
right.
I just figured I'd go with something that, can win games against a decent amount of stuff. Anything that's not named Zebstrika can have a chance against at least. So
Of course. And then and the field was pretty much, I guess, it turned out to be one of the better meta calls for this event.
Yeah. It worked out good. I mean, I knew Gardevoir had won Dallas, or like done well in Dallas, and so I was expecting that, and so I figured, Ray has a good matchup there, and I knew everybody was going to play Greninja, so I was like, okay, well, let's just put this Giratina in here, and it seems like that'll work out okay for me there. And, I expected Evil Tall Garb had a decent showing day one. There's like some good players playing it, but none made it into day two. But I played the Jolteon for that reason.
That's fair.
If you get Parallel City Garbed, you have an out to like buy a few turns to try to reset your board up. So with Jolteon.
That makes sense. Yeah, that was the next question. Like, why the Jolteon over the metal version as opposed to what the other people did? Yeah.
Yeah, I've played the metal version in the past, but Rainbow Road is nowhere near as popular as it used to be. So I don't see the reason running the like promo Magearna and stuff like that. It's still a good card, and it would have been nice. I wasn't expecting near as much of the Regice, Glaceon, Jolteon crap that was running around, but there's a decent amount of people playing that, and metal would have been nice against that, of course. But I mean, thinking back to it, like if they get a lone Regice out, there's really nothing I can do anyway, and then Magearna does 0 damage because it only goes based off the bench, so it wouldn't have really mattered that much. And in my game I played against Grant in day 2, and I'm sure I'll talk about that in a little bit, but Swift with Jolteon ended up being just enough to get me by in that matchup, so
that's
four-shotting his Regice, yeah. So that was fun.
Okay, so you're sitting down, day 1, you're getting ready to play with Rayquaza. How confident do you feel going in?
Well, I felt pretty good until this is actually okay. So round 1, I play against Christopher Bobo, who's actually a pretty good friend of mine from South Carolina. He was playing Greninja, but I go and do my first Ultra Ball, and I search my deck, and I'm like, okay, both of my Hoopas are prized.
Oh God.
Okay. Both of my 2 of my Mega Rayquazas are prized. So I was like, this is gonna be just a great day. I was like expecting that the rest of the day, but luckily that didn't happen anymore. But and if it was gonna happen in any matchup, I would prefer it to be the Greninja matchup since I'm gonna be taking prizes early.
Right.
But yeah, so it worked out okay in that instance. But I was just like, man, this is not gonna be fun.
All right.
I've played a ton of Rayquaza over the past few months, and I'm pretty comfortable with the deck overall. So I felt like I could give myself a chance against anything for the most part.
Yeah, of course. So I'll let you dive into your day 1.
Yeah, sure. I got it written down here. So like I said, round 1, I play against my friend Chris, who was playing Greninja, and we had just 2 games there, and he played 3 Silent Lab, but he only was ever able to find 2, and he wasn't ever able to find them at the right times, so the Giratina promo put him work in that matchup, so I won 2-0 there. And then round 2, I play against David Atz, who was playing Volcanion, and he actually ended up making day 2, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, we play there, and the Volcanion matchup can actually go either way if they set up their board really well with some early power heaters. Like I'm pretty much going to be forced to play the odd prize game, like take a knockout on a baby Volcanion. Luckily, he didn't play the Entei, which can hurt the matchup for me a little bit.
Oh yeah,
but
that's scary. Yeah.
yeah. At the league challenge the next day, I played against a Volcanion, and he was playing two of the Enteis, so that was fun. But anyway, but yeah, pretty much the Volcanion. I think it can go either way. I think it's 60-40 for Ray, but if you miss a turn of like Hex plus Emerald Break for a knockout, you're gonna give them an opening to kind of come back from there. But luckily, I was able to draw well enough to win 2 games there, so 2-0 again. And then round 3, I play against John White, who was playing Volcanion as well, and kind of the same thing. Was able to just draw well enough and won 2 games to none. Then round 4, I play against Jacob Macabre. I've seen his name on like Facebook groups and stuff before, but I don't know how to say his last name. but yeah, he was playing Greninja, and game 1. So this is the first game I dropped all day, and I was winning the game, and then I was in a really dominant board position. I had 2 Rays completely ready to go. He wasn't able to get out. As long as you can deny Greninja from getting out 2 breaks, they're going to be playing from behind pretty much the whole time. Like the turn that they start evolving into Greninjas, if they only hit 2, you'll probably be okay. Is kind of the idea there. Yeah, so I was ahead, and then I was just playing my hand out. Like, I didn't even need anything. Like, my board was completely set up, but I play a Sycamore, and then I draw my cards. I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there's my last card, 7. So I decked myself out like an idiot. So I was like, all right, well, we'll go to game 2 then. And I was able to win 2 more games there, luckily. So kind of a dumb mistake on my part, but it could have really hurt me for sure too, but it ended up working out. I ended up winning 2 more games, so it was fun. Then round 5, I played against Caleb Gadamer, who was playing Mega Gardevoir, which is a really favorable matchup for Ray. But he actually almost won game 2 because he played 2 Hex Maniac, and he hexed me for the first 4 turns and just really kept me from being able to set up. And he actually made some really smart plays with. So he was playing the Absol, which is really good counter for Gyarados, of course. But in this matchup, he's never going to be able to one-shot a Mega Ray. So what he did was he put 160 on a Mega Ray, and then he Absoled to move 30 to a benched Mega Ray, so that later in the game he can have a full bench and then clear his board to hit 190 plus 30 for 220 to win the game, doing that. So he was trying to set himself up really well. So the math was actually pretty annoying there, but I was able to just... After he missed the turn of Hex, I was just able to kind of pop off and won 2-0 there. Then round 6, I play against Nick Francis, who's playing Turbo Dark. And if I remember correctly, he was playing just Reverse Valleys. He wasn't playing Silent Labs or anything like that. So that wasn't too bad. And for instance, all the Turbo Darks and Greninjas that were playing Silent Labs, they can hurt you if they stick at turn 1. But if you really just need 1 turn to kind of set your bench up and be good to go. So if you're able to find the Skyfield in that first turn, if they go first, stick a Silent Lab, and you're not able to find a Skyfield, you'll be really far behind. But other than that, if you go first, you don't really mind being benched down to 5, because then eventually you just replace it and then Dragonite some Pokemon back and stuff like that. But
did Jolteon ever help out in the Speed Dark matchup?
In theory, it could have, but I never went that route. I just decided I was going to smash their teeth in with Rayquaza, and it worked out fine. So, I could have... I know that they all play at least some sort of out Jolteon, whether that be Escape Rope or Enhanced Hammer plus Flare Grunt. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really ever want to risk just going all in on the Jolteon strategy and then having them pull out the surprise rope Lysander or, sticking me with a Flare Grunt and Enhanced Hammer and no energy, and then I'm kind of screwed from there. So I just would rather go with the faster Rayquaza route and just take 3 knockouts and win the game that way. So
okay.
That was my thinking going there. And then round 7, I played against Harry Wada, who was playing Evil Garb, the only one I played against, I think, in the whole tournament. And let's see, game 1 was the first time I dead drew in the whole tournament, so I just started like a Rayquaza and then passed and drew and passed and drew and passed, and he eventually won. Just like had a completely dead hand. Game 2, I go first, kind of set up a little bit. I don't think I had any energy on the board, and then pass on to his turn. He started Shaman. He drew into an Eviltal. He benched his Eviltal and had just like a completely dead hand. So he attaches a DCE to his Shaman and Sky returns and says, well, if you have it, you have it, and promoted his Eviltal. And I just went off and killed his only Eviltal.
That is risky, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he had nothing in his hand, though. Like, it was like he does that, or the Shaman's gonna die anyway. So like, I think it was the correct play for him to make, but definitely very risky. And I think on paper, Eviltal Garb can be favored against it if they can pull off the, Parallel City Garbodor in combo late game, and like I just don't draw well off of that. So as long as I'm able to avoid that, I think the matchup's pretty good for me. As long as you can, like, denying Garbodor is really important there. But let's see. And then, so game 3, I just think he never really set up his board really well. He never got a Trubbish benched, and I was able to win that one. So I felt bad for him, too, because he started 6-0 and then whiffed on getting day 2. I think he just hit, like, bad matchups in the last 2 rounds, so stinks when that happens. But and let's see, round 8, I play against James Arnold, who was playing Turbo Dark, and he offers the ID, but, I know it's a favorable matchup for me, so I'm trying to go for the points. And at this point, I'm kind of in the back of my head thinking, okay, 9-0, I'm going to get the 9-0. But so I play it out with James and win 2 games there. And then round 9, there's a bunch of different... I was the only 8-0 left, but there's a bunch of 7-1s I can get paired against. But, of course, I get Dylan Bryan, who was playing the Vespiquen Zebstrika. And so I realized at this point, like, if all the other X1s ID, that means that Dylan and I will be the only 8-1s going into day 2, which means we're going to play again round 10. So, like, I've completely screwed myself. But, it is what it is. So we played round 9. And he won game 1. Game 2, he dead drew and I won, so I was able to actually take a game off him. And then game 3, he just set up and won. So there you go, and that was the end of day 1. And I was number 1 seed going into day 2, which felt pretty cool, being number 1 seed at the biggest regionals ever. But I don't think that's anything I did right necessarily. It's just I hit good matchups, and like we were talking about before we started, I just know how to play Ultra Ball for Hoopa and say Emerald Break. So just going from there.
I mean, you got to get a little lucky to do well at regionals.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, like it's all going to be about matchups, and I drew pretty well throughout the day, so I recognize that's how it goes. Like to make a deep run at any tournament. At any tournament, you're going to have some form of luck go your way. So.
Now you're sitting at first seed, you're going, okay, sick, I just got to win 2 and ID 1 tomorrow.
Yeah, that was the idea, but then we realized later in the day that winning 2 and IDing 1 would put me on the bubble, and, I really was wanting to kind of play it safe, so I kind of was thinking I was going to have to win 3. But yeah, I felt like winning 2 would give me a good shot, and, I knew I was going to go against Dylan, who was going to end up doing well, so I knew my tiebreakers would at least be decent.
Right.
All
right. I'll let you just jump into your day 2 then.
Yeah. So day 2, like I said, round 10, go up against Dylan again. So game 1, he kind of does his thing and wins. Game 2, I actually am able to dig really hard for the Hex turn 1, and I'm able to Hex, and he started like a Combi, and then all he had in his hand was an Ultra Ball. So if I hadn't Hexed, he would have been able to Ultra Ball for Shaman. To like set up and draw more stuff, but he didn't have any supporters, so he had to just Ultra Ball for a Blitzel so that he didn't get benched the next turn, and he had to pass, and so then I was able to win in 2 turns. He just didn't draw into anything, so that was cool, getting to pull a game off of him both times at least. And then game 3, I actually put myself in a decent position to win, I think. It's like a 90-10 matchup. Like, it's really hard to do anything there. Like, they pretty much have to dead draw. But he there was one turn, he had 2 prizes left, and I had like 3 or 4 prizes left. Like, I was still pretty far down. But all he had on his field was a Vespiquen with no energy on it, and it had a Lucky Helmet on it, of course, but it had no energy on it. And so he It was like, if he whiffs the DCE here, then I'm going to be able to put myself in a position where I can knock out his only attacker. Like, all he had on his bench was like Octillery and stuff like that. So nothing, and Rattata, and like nothing that was gonna be able to evolve into an attacker. So I was like, okay, if he whiffs the energy here, I'll be able to knock this thing out, and then he's gonna be playing from behind, and I might be able to pull this one out. But he hit the energy and won the game, so none of that really mattered. So it was close, but of course, it's a really, very, very bad matchup. So then round 11, I play against Alex Hill, who's playing Greninja. And his was actually pretty scary, since he plays the Echo Arm to get back bursting balloons. So with the Giratina promo, you're limiting a lot of the damage that they're able to do, since they can't use Giant Water Shuriken. Mm-hmm. But if he's able to get some damage, like I know as Rayquaza player, I'm going to have to attack into those bursting balloons, because if I miss a knockout, like if I just pass and choose not to take the knockout, I'm going to fall way too far behind. So I like, even though it hurts to attack into those to take 60 damage, I like pretty much have to. I don't really have a choice, because otherwise late game he'll just come back and smash me. So I remember game 1, all I saw was 2 Silent Labs, but I wasn't sure if he played just 2 or if he played a 3rd or 4th, because I knew there was some, like, I'm pretty sure you played 4, right? And then like, I knew there were some people running around that played 4. So I remember I won game 1, and then I remember a crucial turn in game 2 where I had 2 VS Seekers in my hand, and I could have tried to end just to like refresh my hand and not have, because I think like besides that I didn't have like any energies for the next turn or anything like that. I could have ended to try to refresh my hand. Or Hex, because he had 2 Silent Labs in the discard, and I didn't know if he played anymore, and I chose to just play the Hex, and that paid off because immediately he plays down the Silent Lab, and he wasn't able to use Giant Water Shuriken because of Hex. So that was good there for me, because he would have been able to get some good damage on the board that turn if I hadn't done that. And then round 12, I play against Long Bui, who is playing the Glaceon Regice Garbodor. And the way my deck is, I don't really have an out to a lone Regice. Like, if he gets just one Regice, then I'm kind of screwed. I can Swift with Jolteon or Flash Ray with Jolteon to kind of like get in a stalemate mode and maybe force him to bench something. But yeah, so I wasn't too sure about it. I was thinking about asking for the ID. But he comes up and he asks for the ID, which makes me think, okay, maybe he's not that comfortable in it. I said, well, let's just see how it goes, play the first few turns, and maybe we'll make a decision. And he goes first, and he Ultra Balls for a Hoopa and like benches a bunch of EXs, and I'm like, okay, we're good. So, because at that point, I just have a bunch of targets to be able to Lysander up. So I was fine with that, and so I won that matchup 2-0, and I think he only played one. I'm pretty sure he only played one Regice. So
okay.
Yeah, since he only played one, I can understand why he would want to ID there, since that's like the main thing that hurts my deck. And then round 13. So at this point, I'm 10-2, so 30 points, 2 rounds left. I can ID 1 and be on the bubble. If I can ID both, then that means I'm guaranteed top 8. So round 13, I go against Alex Smetna, who's playing Vileplume Toolbox, and he feels really uncomfortable in the matchup because normally in his setup to go for the turn 1 Plume, he's going to have to bench a lot of EXs and stuff, and it takes a while for them to hit knockouts on my Pokemon, so I have plenty of turns to draw into one of my 2 Lysanders. He's not feeling great about it, and so like I was kind of iffy, like if I wanted to ID with him or like just play it out, because I knew I was going to be on bubble and I didn't know what my last round was going to be against. But he agreed to ID, so that was good for me, because I don't know, like, because I didn't want to deal with like if I get turn 1 item locked and I just can't play any cards and lose that way, like that's no fun.
Yeah.
But so yeah, ID there, and then round 14, I go up against Grant Manley, who's one of my good friends, like one of my like main testing partner, and he's playing the Glaceon Regice Garbodor, and unlike Long, he's playing 3 Regice. which is an issue. But he also didn't play Fighting Fury Belt, and because of him not playing Fighting Fury Belt, it actually made it not that bad for me because I was able to Swift and like, I mean, it sounds bad, but like Swift 4-hit KOs a Regice, whereas if it has a Fighting Fury Belt, it hits it takes 6 hits to kill it. So so since he didn't play Fighting Fury Belt, it wasn't that bad, and I was able to cycle between the two and like Olympia to heal damage and stuff. So I win game 1, and see, I'm at 31 points, so I'm okay with IDing. Grant's at 30, so he could ID, but he's kind of like nervous about IDing. So we go into game 2, and he starts Jolteon. Like if he starts Regice, I'm gonna have a little bit harder of a time, I think. But he started Jolteon, which means he was gonna have to bench like probably a Trubbish and something else at some point. So he plays an N on his first turn, and before we draw for the N, I said, I'll ID now, but if we draw our cards, I'm not going to ID. And so he just sat there and he thought about it for a second, and he agreed to ID. So we ID'd, and unfortunately for him, he did miss, but he had a great tournament run himself. So yeah, but yeah, there you go, and I was 6th seed going into top 8 at 32 points. So.
Yeah, that must feel pretty awesome, hitting top 8 at one of the biggest regionals.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, like, I've only been playing for a little over a year now. This is my first competitive season, so it felt good to have sort of a strong performance at a regionals. Like, this tournament was going to be the deciding factor of whether or not I go for an invite or not. So getting top 8 definitely makes me feel a little more confident in trying to travel, spend a little money to travel to these places to try to go for it. So
now you're on that grind life.
Yeah, no kidding. It feels like 80 points for getting top 8. It's awesome. Like I'm glad that I was able to do it, but it just still feels like not a lot. I don't know.
Exactly.
It still feels like so far away to get 500. But
and for spoiler alert, he does lose in top 8. But tell us what happened.
Yes, yeah. Sadly, my opponent actually had a game loss in top 8 for a marked sleeve, and I felt really bad for him. I played against Chris Sakala, who ended up winning the tournament. He was a really nice guy, so I felt really bad about his game loss because he had gotten deck checked 4 times throughout day 2, and they never said anything about his sleeves. And then going into top 8, he gets a game loss for a marked sleeve, which just really sucks.
Yeah.
But let's see. So our first game that we played, but technically game 2. For the second time in the whole tournament, I just completely dead drew, just like started nothing. It was actually during this match that I found out that the Giratina promo is weak to dark, because I promoted it up to like take a hit. I was like, okay, you can only hit me for 120, and so he goes dark pulse for 240. I'm like, oh, okay, there you go.
Neat.
So yeah, there you go. But yeah, I lost that one pretty quick, and then our third game, I think like I was in a decent position after turn 1. Like I set my board up pretty well, but then on my second and third turn, I was playing cards, like I was sycamoring, I was inning, but I just whiffed the energy I needed to attack to take a knockout on a Darkrai, and from that point I got too far behind. Let's see, I remember I end him to 2, and I end myself to 4, so he was up 2 prizes on me. I was able to take a knockout on a Darkrai that turn. And he, all he needs to win, like he has like 100 damage worth of energy, like he has 4 energies on the board, okay. So Dark Pulse is hitting for 100, and so all he needs is an energy Lysander to knock out a Shaman, and he drew into VS Seeker and some dead card, so he chooses to promote the Baby Eviltal, and then his top deck was the Dark Energy, so if he had promoted a Darkrai, he would have won the game right there. But since he promoted the Eviltal, he couldn't retreat it because he needed the energy that was on that thing to knock out a Shaman. So he has to just Sycamore, and then he draws a bunch of cards, and then he Oblivion Wings and hits me for 30. And so I draw, and I'm like, okay, I know he's probably got game in his hand, so I need to just in and hope he doesn't get it. And then I could have, so it's 2-2 prizes. I could have taken a knockout on his Baby Eviltal, but that means that all he needs to win the game is a Lysander. So I was forcing him to either have another energy to retreat or a switching card and the Lysander in order to win the game that turn. And he drew into Escape Rope via Seeker off the into 2. So because I chose to pass, not knocking it out, making him
forcing him to have 2 cards as opposed to just 1. But he had the 2 cards he needed off the end. But I mean, he still had a lot of outs left. Like I think he'd only played 2 of his VS Seekers, so it was probable for him to get it. But yeah, it just kind of stinks losing. Like it's like I didn't misplay, I didn't do anything wrong. I just didn't draw the cards I needed. So
Right, yeah.
it's like the worst way to lose. But I can't complain about a top 8 finish. So
No, not at all.
yeah, great weekend for sure.
If you could go back into your list and change any cards, would you?
Yeah, so I actually played the same deck at the League Challenge the next day, but I took out I played a 4-3 Mega Rayquaza line, and I took out the whole day. And before the tournament, I was running around everywhere, and I was looking for a Spinda, and I was going to cut the 4th Rayquaza for a Spinda, but I couldn't find one. So I ended up at the League Challenge the next day, or League Cup the next day. I cut the 4th Rayquaza for an Escape Rope, just because it gives you kind of another switching option if they Lysander to try to stall you late game. Of course, I did have an Olympia for that as well, but it's also in some ways like a pseudo Lysander. Like you can, like if they promote something they want you to knock out, like a 1-prizer. You can Escape Rope and force them to promote something else that they were trying to save. So I really liked the Escape Rope, and it came in clutch in the League Cup, so I definitely would have liked to have played that. But yeah, maybe like I could see, like I know Ryan Peterson, who's a big advocate for Mega Rayquaza, he played a Beedrill EX, and I can see the reasonings behind that for getting rid of the tool on Garbodor. But yeah, I don't think I would change too much about it. Just that one Escape Rope probably.
For sure.
I could also see maybe cutting the Olympia for a Pokemon Ranger, just to give you to not make your games against the Regice decks as stressful. But yeah.
Okay, I'll leave the floor to you to do any shout-outs, any plugs, whatever you want.
Yeah, sure. So first off, I got to shout out my testing group here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Grant Manley, Blaine Hill, Chris Watkins, Eddie Satavi, Alex Wilson, and Oliver King. We play a lot of games together, so yeah, shout outs to them for testing with me, and everybody who congratulated me and stuff on a good finish. There's plenty of people I'd love to shout out, but the list would be here for a little while, I'm sure. But and then also, yeah, for plugs, I do have a YouTube channel, like Rahul mentioned at the beginning, so you can check that out. Trainer Chip is what it is, and then I have a Facebook page and a Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all that stuff is all just Trainer Chip, so you can find me in all those things. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for doing the interview and all the cool stuff you guys do over at the Chaos Gym.
All right, thank you.
All right, man.